What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Little Sasakor, the one who never knows the best, and in today's video we need to talk about 2xKO and Marvel Tokon fighting souls. Before we get into things, I do want to apologize if I sound a little congested. It's because I am, but please bear with me. Earlier today on my stream, I was playing some Tekken and a viewer asked me if I'd heard about the layoffs that happened with Riot and 2xKO, and I said no, and I asked them if they had a source for it, and then we had an update directly from Tom Cannon on the Riot Games website. So we're going to read through this together, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it, as well as 2xKO as a game, and then Marvel Tokon and how that ties into this as well. So if we go ahead and jump on over to the monitor, you see that we have an update on 2xKO February 9th, 2026. Hey everyone, I wanted to take a moment to share an important update on 2xKO. This is a difficult update to share, but we want to be clear about what's changing and why. So what's changing and why? After a lot of discussion and reflection, we're reducing the size of the 2xKO team. I want you to know that decision wasn't made lightly. As we expanded from PC to console, we saw consistent trends in how players were engaging with 2xKO. The game has resonated with a passionate core audience, but overall momentum hasn't reached the level needed to support a team of this size long term. In other words, saying the game just hasn't succeeded in the way that they had hoped, and it's not generating enough money most likely because the player base isn't large enough and people aren't spending enough money on the microtransactions for the extremely expensive cosmetics and stuff in the game. So they have to downsize the team is basically what I took away from that. You can feel free to interpret it as you wish, but that's my takeaway from this. With a smaller focused team, we're going to dig in and make key improvements to the game, including some of the things we've already heard you asking for. We'll share some of our plans soon. I wonder if that has to do with adding more characters or reducing the prices of some of these microtransactions, as well as a lot of the gameplay and system changes as well. Our plans for the 2026 competitive series are unchanged. We remain committed to partnering with tournament organizers and local communities. Our focus will continue to be on supporting the events and organizers that already power the FGC. I can't read today. Ultimately, this decision reflects a shift in how we operate. This isn't a judgment on individual riders or a signal that our journey is over. We're reshaping the team to give 2xKO a more sustainable path forward. Sounds good, at least they're trying to make it sound good. About the people behind the game, I want to be clear about something that matters deeply to me. The people who helped ship 2xKO poured years of creativity, care, and belief into this game. Taking creative risks like this is hard, and the work they did is real and meaningful. We're committed to supporting impacted riders through this transition, including helping them explore opportunities within Riot where possible, and providing a minimum of 6 months of notice pay and severance where it's not. Which I think is pretty cool. I think this is definitely worth noting. I feel like we've seen layoffs all over the place lately, and I don't know how many of these companies have actually done things like this, where they try to find positions within the company for the people who are laid off, like in other places, or like other sectors, or whatever. And then the 6 months of notice pay and severance. Again, I don't know how common that actually is, but kudos, I suppose. I do want to say that my heart goes out to those who were affected by this, not just the players, obviously, but the people who worked on this, because I know that the team of people who worked on 2xKO were pretty passionate and dedicated about the game and the work that they put into it. And some of them are people that I know personally or have met, whether it's through, Twitch chats and streams and online, or in person at events and everything like that. Like, I've met a lot of these people, through tournaments and streaming and YouTube and everything like that. So, yeah, I don't know who specifically is affected by these layoffs, but I feel for them regardless. Going forward, I know this update will raise questions and concerns. That's understandable. We'll continue communicating about how things are progressing. In the journey so far, we've been humbled and dazzled by the energy and passion you've brought to the 2xKO community. That energy matters, and it will help fuel us into the next chapter as we improve the game. Thank you for playing 2xKO, for caring enough to ask hard questions, and for being part of this community. Cannon. And well, to keep it a stack, I have had my own apprehensions with 2xKO, and frankly speaking, I'm just not a big fan of the game. That being said, I've wanted it to succeed. I didn't think that it was going to be a game that could live up to the unrealistic expectations that a lot of the FGC had for it, where it was going to be this new savior of the FGC and catapult fighting games into the mainstream and make it real esports and make all these people all this money because it's Riot, and Riot's so big and has so much money, and look at League of Legends and look at Valorant, look at this and look at that. And I always felt like that was a bit of a pipe dream, but I would have loved for that to happen, you know what I mean? But ultimately I didn't think that it would, and it turns out that 2xKO is probably not going to be that FGC savior. And whether or not the FGC needs a savior, I don't really know. It's just debatable. Fighting games are in a weird place right now, because depending on who you ask, fighting games are in a golden age, or they're actually a dying genre. So it's two extremes. You know, it's very polarizing. I feel. But regardless, the point is 2XKO is not meeting the expectations of Riot, and frankly, I don't think it met the expectations of most players either. I have my own list of gripes with the game, and I'm sure that these are gripes that are felt by a lot of people, whether they play the game or not. One of the biggest ones being the roster is incredibly lackluster, and I never made like a dedicated video talking about why I don't play 2XKO or anything of that nature, because I really wanted to not be overly negative, man. Like I've been really reluctant to speak on so many different topics and games as of late, despite the fact that people will constantly ask me, you know, my thoughts or opinions or anything like that, whether I'm streaming or it's on Twitter. And like, I'll respond in those moments, but like, I felt like I should make a video, but then I also feel like, you know, I don't want to come off as this, like I'm just being negative for no reason, or, you know, just being like that, just being like that grouch, you know what I'm saying? But like, people want to hear my thoughts and opinions, and so I guess I'm here to give thoughts and opinions on this, and then I'll explain how 2XK or how Tokon ties into this as well. But yeah, I have my own list of things that I don't like about 2XKO. The game ultimately ended up not being for me, even though I was pretty excited about it. I feel as though a lot of its systems just I wasn't a big fan of. Gameplay wise, I just don't agree with some of the decisions. I think that the roster is very lackluster, and frankly, in terms of size, is inexcusable. It launched with what, 10 or 12 characters, 4 or 5 of which were like grapplers, which immediately alienates a large amount of the player base, because it's already a niche archetype that most people are not fans of anyway. And it's just like, you know what I mean? Well, and not even necessarily grapplers, but just like big bodies, you know what I'm saying? Grapplers was the wrong word there, but just like big body characters, like a couple of them are grapplers, and it's just like, you know, most people aren't fans of that archetype. So it's like, you really have like at best like 7 characters to choose from for most people. And then it's just like, you know what I mean? It just, and it's attacking, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just. As I'm sitting here editing this video, I feel like the things I said just now were a little bit vague. So to get just a little bit more into the weeds, specifically about problems that I and other players have. So number 1, okay, the roster obviously leaves a lot to be desired. And, you know, I do feel that the number of characters is completely and totally inexcusable. I don't care that the game is free to play. I don't care that there's DLC coming. I think that that's all extreme cope, and that roster is just pathetic. On top of that, they're only including arcane characters, right? Which somewhat makes sense. I get it. But like, who are you trying to appeal to with that? I guess it's just specifically arcane fans, because it can't be League of Legends players who have attachment to, you know, the champions that they play in the game, and it can't really be fighting game players like that, because there are characters that exist within League of Legends that would appeal to fighting game players significantly more and make for better fighting game characters than some of the people that you've included in the roster up to this point. And then there's a part of me that even tried to give them the benefit of the doubt and be like, well, as somebody myself who doesn't play League of Legends and never has, and has no like investment or attachment to any of those champs or anything like that, like maybe that's why. But then no, because games like Grand Blue exist, where I thought that game was sick and a lot of fun and had several extremely cool characters that I was interested in, despite having zero attachment, involvement, investment whatsoever to the Grand Blue franchise or series prior to that game coming out. So that's not an excuse either, you know what I mean? And then we talk about like the gameplay and the mechanics and everything like that. The game always feels like a confused mess to me personally, because I truly to this day don't understand who the game is really for, because at some points it feels like a love letter to the FGC, but then you completely like negate that and you're counterproductive by removing motion inputs and then having all these extra buttons for mechanics and everything like that, as opposed to just having like a more traditional like button layout and like system in place, because it's like we're trying to lower the skill floor to entice casuals. But that doesn't make sense either, because that dumbing down the game isn't really how you entice casuals. You know what casuals really like? You know what casuals really enjoy? They enjoy single player content, which is something that fighting games fall short on all the time. That's probably like the biggest thing they care about the most. And you want to talk about like the cosmetics and everything like that, which are grossly overpriced in this game, you know, like they want unlockables, they want skins and characters and colors and story modes and extra arcade modes and things of that nature. That's what's really going to sell the game to the casual audience. I don't think it's a shocker that Mortal Kombat always sells as well as it does, despite the games not having the most amount of longevity. And yes, longevity should be something that developers in these companies are taking into consideration, but it doesn't look like that's really the case anyway, you know what I mean? It's just, man, the game to me doesn't feel like it ever really had a cleared target demographic. It always felt like it was like this weird mixture of both that didn't really resonate with either. And don't get me wrong, it does appeal to some fighting game players. There are a handful of fighting game players out there who are very passionate and into this game. Like I said, there were hundreds of players at Frosty Faustings, but I really just don't get it. And honestly, it feels like they failed miserably when it comes to marketing this game on top of that as well, because again, who's the game for? Why is it called 2xKO? Why is there like zero indication whatsoever that it has anything to do with League of Legends? Which, by the way, League of Legends players are not touching this game. 99.9% of people who play League have no interest in this game, or don't even know that it exists, or that it's out, or that it has anything to do with this IP that should be the biggest thing pushing it to get people who aren't already a fighting game player into it. Like, just what are we doing, man? Like, what are we doing? Real talk, there's a lot of people who didn't even know if the game is actually out or that it exists at all. People are already saying that the game is dead and dying, you know what I mean? And to further get into like the mechanics of the game and things that I don't like trying to call assist and neutral when you're moving forward and the call in the back, like, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. And I don't really get it, man. I don't really get it. The game wasn't for me. It's clearly for some people, not as many as they were hoping to capture. And I don't truly understand who they were hoping to capture anyway, because again, like, it feels like, you know, it's by fighting game players for fighting game players. It's like, okay, that doesn't really seem like what you're really doing based on how you've designed some of these things. But it can't be for the casual audience either, because the casual audience doesn't really love tag fighters like that. It's like overly complicated for them and difficult to learn, and then it's like daunting to learn more than one character, and then you have to sit there and deal with all these buttons and all these mechanics and then all these fuses, and then also combos that are 30 seconds long that take people out of the game and break their immersion, and they're just like not engaging with the gameplay. And don't get me wrong, there are cool things about it as well. Like, I think, you know, art style wise, the game is pretty dope. I think the sound design is very cool. There's some good music in the game. Some of the fuses are pretty creative and cool, like the whole freestyle thing. Like, I do think that is really dope. And, you know, being able to play solo or duos is really cool and innovative. Like, they did some things right, but there's a lot of things that are just confusing about this game that I never really understood or cared for, which is why I ultimately didn't play it. And the biggest reason for me personally, honestly, just being that, like, I don't have a character in a game that I truly love. If you hear me repeat some of this later on in the video, I apologize, but I feel like I just had to get this off my chest because I didn't feel like I elaborated very well just now, and I just wanted to insert this. So anyway, back to the video. Man. And on top of all of it, like, I feel like the game was kind of set up for failure from the start. I don't think that it was marketed very well at all. There are a lot of people I saw on Twitter I didn't even realize that the game was officially out, and it hasn't even been out for a full month. We're in the 1.0 version of this game. It just got released to console. It was in early access all this time, and I feel like the writing was on the wall all along. I had a lot of red flags with this game, and I have a lot of red flags with Marvel Tokon as well, which is why we're going to talk about that game in this video. But there's just so many people that don't even realize that this game is out. You know what I mean? I know it just had a pretty dope event out at Frosty Faustings. I did watch some of that. I did see the top 8 as well. By the way, shout out to Bleed for winning that event. I believe he's only like 16 years old, and also the tweet that he made prior to top 8 that after top, I'm not gonna lie, or I ain't gonna lie, it might be the hardest post-win tweet I've ever seen in the FGC. But regardless, as cool as that was, even that event, it had several hundred players, but I think people were expecting to see tournaments on the scale of like thousands of entrants for 2xKO, you know, prior to its release. And I just don't think that we're ever going to get there, especially now with the current news, because the immediate reaction to this by a lot of people that I'm seeing on Twitter is, oh no, 2xKO is dying. Oh, is 2xKO dead? Like, people are immediately, you know, panicking and everything's on fire, and so, oh, 2xKO is dying, 2xKO is dead. People speculating whether or not the game's going to be shut down soon, and even I feel like it wouldn't be that much of a surprise at this point if it did. And see, now I'm feeling like I need to like not be saying this, because now I feel like I'm being like overly negative and super pessimistic, which is like, that's why I didn't want to. But I'm also just keeping it real, you know what I'm saying? Like, I like this is a reality that could exist, you know what I'm saying? These are my genuine thoughts on the matter and on the situation, and also just my observation, you know, on Twitter and everything like that. And I know Twitter isn't everything, but you know, clearly the game hasn't succeeded in the way that people hoped or expected, including Riot themselves. And that's really unfortunate, because again, like, I don't pray for the downfall of any fighting game, whether I like the game or not. I want to see fighting games as a whole, as a genre, succeed. I want to see the FGC continue to grow and expand. We all win if fighting games continue to grow, you know what I mean? So I stand to gain nothing by a fighting game failing. I stand to gain everything by fighting games succeeding. Even if I don't stick to them for very long, like, it's part of my job to try out a bunch of new games and give my thoughts and opinions and cover news and updates and everything like that. And I'm also just personally just trying to find the one that sticks for me and something that I want to continue to grind and play and be like my new main thing. It's also just been like the genre that's stuck with me my whole life. Like, fighting games and RPGs have always been my shit, you know what I'm saying? So why would I not want them to succeed? But this is this is straight up just bad news. I've also begun to see people on Twitter questioning whether or not the free-to-play model was, you know, part of the reason for like the game's downfall, or for this, you know, happening with you know, the staff and everything like that. whether or not a free-to-play model can succeed with fighting games. And I mean, who's to really say? My thoughts on it are that I think a free-to-play model could succeed, but I do think a lot of players felt as though the in-game transactions and the skins and cosmetics, everything that you could buy, were grossly overpriced. Some would probably even go so far as to say that they were predatory in nature, actually. And I get it, if you're making the game free, you got to make the money somewhere, right? But it's not shocking to me if most people were not shelling out the cash necessary to get the stuff that they wanted, just because like it's pretty pricey. I mean, if I open up the game for myself right now, which I don't do very often because like I said, this really isn't for me, but hey man, I don't know if there's any correlation here, but I just open up the client to try to open up the game, and like I don't like it. It's tweaking out right now. I don't know if like bro, like I don't know if this is related at all, but man, all right, I managed to get the game open, so let's take a look at this real quick. You take a look at the game, right? Skins are 2,000 KO points per. Okay, so how much does it cost to get KO points? Well, if you take a look here, oh, okay, you get 1,000 for $10, you get 2,200 for $20. So basically, it's $20 a skin, which I'm not gonna lie, is pretty egregious. Like, keep it a stack, like that's kind of nuts. And then they have like their bundles and everything like that. Okay, so what you get, like for 6,000 KO points, you get 3 skins, a chroma pack, finishers, whatever. But it's just like, it's still 6,000. That's still you spending at least $60, which is a lot. That's the price of a whole new game. You know what I'm saying? That's the price of a whole new game for 3 skins, some colors, a finisher, and what else do you get in here? Just more colors for the skins that I think you got. Yeah, there's just more colors for these skins, which like them even average, like this even just being separate. I feel like if you buy the skin, like I feel it, like if I'm spending $20 on a skin, it should come with all the extra colors off rip. Yo, this is crazy. You buy the skin and you still gotta buy the extra colors. That's another $10. That's $30. But whatever. You get the point. You get the point. So a lot of people, rightfully so, feel like this is outrageous, and I don't blame them for not wanting to spend money on this because it's a lot of money. And look, bro, I am an avid, and I mean like avid NBA 2K player, okay? Like outside of RPGs and fighting games, honestly, I play more 2K than either of those these days. So I know all about predatory business practices and gross monetization of video games, you know what I'm saying? I've also played my fair share of gotchas, and that's crazy, man. And so, yeah, that's been something that people have complained about a lot. And like I said, the roster's been a big point of contention as well. And, and then the gameplay itself obviously has a lot of hangups. People have varying different criticisms for the actual mechanics and systems that exist within the game. And the game still has potential. Like, I think the game could still be great. And I think they're supposed to be getting like some patch that's changing a lot of big things. So then comes the question, what does this have to do with Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls? Well, with 2XKO, I never really made like a dedicated video talking very much about it because I had mostly negative things to say and a lot of criticism, and I just didn't want to deal with like the backlash of people just saying, well, then just don't play it, or you know what I'm saying, and things like that. Because like, bro, but I want to like the game, I want to play the game, I want the game to succeed, and people like just fail to like acknowledge that or realize that just because you're critical of something or you talk about the things that you don't like doesn't mean that like I'm hating on it or that I want it to fail or that I just don't want to deal with it, right? And ultimately I ended up choosing the route of like, you know what, man, the game just isn't for me. I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like that. I'm gonna just keep it to myself and just move on and just find other things to play. And that's what I did. With Marvel Tokon, I've got my apprehensions and my red flags that are popping up and things that I don't like about that game. And I did the same thing where I gathered up a bunch of different tweets from people online. I wrote down a bunch of my own thoughts. I had this whole video planned out of how I was gonna, criticize the game after, the first and second alpha or beta or whatever, and talk about all the things that I did and I don't like and things that I hope to see change and all the criticisms or whatever. And there's going to be a lot of negative feedback because I think the game needs a lot of change. It could be a lot better because I want it to succeed. I want to like that game. I want that to be the biggest fighting game ever. I want it to blow up. I want it to catapult the FGC into another golden age. I want it to be the next Marvel versus Capcom. I want it to be Dragon Ball FighterZ all over again. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want fighting games to succeed and be successful, for people to love them and for myself to love them and enjoy them and play them. But the same feeling I got about 2XKO leading up to its release, I currently have with Marvel Tokon, because it's been mostly radio silence since the announcement of that game, outside of us getting the 2 betas that were basically the same. And it's a 4v4 fighting game where the first beta only had 6 playable characters. Okay, like, not the end of the world, a little, just not even like a red flag, just maybe like a pale pink flag, just, I'm saying, just like a little, okay, that's weird. And then there are no changes, at least no noticeable changes at all from the first beta to the second beta. And the only characters that were added were the two characters who should have been in the first beta because they were revealed in the first place in Ghost Rider and Spider-Man. Like, we saw them in the initial reveal, why they weren't in the first beta. You know what I'm saying? That's where it's like that little flag. It's like, okay, we don't even get access to like the first characters that we saw. Okay, still no release date. We've gotten zero news, updates, trailers, character reveals, or anything of that nature. You know what I mean? And there's going to be a Sony State of Play where we're going to see Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. And this, I don't want to say it's going to make or break it, but like this will be very telling, in my opinion, the future of Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. But there's already been like a reveal that I don't think was necessarily intended, but we've already gotten some new information about Tokon, which fun enough came out right after I ended my stream and then went on about my day. I had some stuff I went and did today, but beside the point, where I'm like, okay, that's a red flag. Like, that is a legitimate red flag. And you know, we can just get straight to that. I'm gonna just pull it up. So we had some information that came directly from the Steam page for Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, and it says, assemble your team of legendary Marvel characters in the ultimate 4v4 tag team fighter from PlayStation Studios, Arc System Works, and Marvel Games. It's time to build your dream team and break some spirits in blistering 4v4 fighting action. Choose from expanding roster of 20 iconic Marvel characters at launch, each rendered in a bold, new anime-inspired art style and members of their own unique teams of equally impressive heroes and villains. So, when it comes to the gameplay of Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, it's already got its fair share of criticisms, right? Myself, for example, I don't feel as though the combat has a lot of depth to it. It doesn't feel like there's much sauce or creativity to be found. But it's just still super early, right? I don't want to be too harsh or too quick or hasty in my judgments because the game's not out yet, right? You look back at the beta gameplay from DBFZ or season 1 of DBFZ, and like that game evolved so much over time, and there's so much that was possible back then that we didn't know about just because we weren't experienced enough, we didn't have enough time with it, etc., right? So like, you can't be too harsh or too quick in your judgments, right? But that being said, you know, there are some elite players out there who did spend every possible minute that they could on those betas or alphas and, you know, tried to figure out everything that they could, right? And it left a lot to be desired. You know, the game felt very simplistic in nature. Tagging doesn't feel as though it's incentivized very much because your characters share a health bar. Also, when it comes to the homogenization of assists, as well as the way assist calling works, particularly when you're trying to call certain assists in neutral, like it just feels clunky and weird and awkward. It just kind of feels like a mess. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of feels like Marvel Tokon in particular is a fighting game that's being developed for people who aren't fighting game fans, which kind of feels as like the new wave right now in a lot of fighting games, where it's like fighting games are catering to non-fighting game players, and in that process they're alienating like their core player base and turning them away. It's like they're trying to expand the genre, right? But then they're like I said, literally alienating the people who have been with them for so long. Like Tekken players are going through this. Street Fighter honestly probably has it the best out of everybody, but even they at times feel as though it's like, yo, like what is with this? You know, like why does this mechanic exist? Why does this character exist? You know what I mean? And then there's also the way that they've handled like DLC content and everything of that nature. That's a whole other thing, and like the collaborations and such. Street Fighter 6 has got its own issues as well, but it's probably the best off out of everything. And honestly, Street Fighter 6 is huge still, is massive, particularly in Japan, but it doesn't feel like there's been any trickle down from that to other games in the FGC. It's really just like a Street Fighter centric thing. Regardless, going back to Tokon, people already had their hangups when it comes to the gameplay and the mechanics of the game, right? And it's like, okay, let's not be too hasty. Like, it's still early. Like, maybe we can learn a lot. It feels a little bit simpler and a little bit like lacking in areas that we were hoping for, but it still looks gorgeous. And, you know, the roster could be really sick and blah, blah, blah. And then we get the announcement that there's going to be 20 characters at launch. And I'm somebody who was of the opinion that 20 characters is far too low. Now, I'm not somebody who thinks that roster size is the end all be all, but I do think it matters quite a lot, particularly when you're talking about the casual audience and the casual player base, especially as a game that's so clearly trying to cater to a casual audience. People like that care a lot about roster size. Dragon Ball FighterZ was only a 3v3 game, and it launched with 24 characters, and that game got scrutinized a lot for its small roster. 2XKO is under a lot of criticism for its lackluster roster. And that game's 2v2 with 12, right? So you look at the ratio, like 4v4, and you know, then there's the whole argument about whether or not it's really a tag game or really 4v4, because again, other people feel as though And I agree with you guys, by the way. I made a tweet about this. I got a lot of toxic comments as well as some that were in agreement with me. It just is what it is. Like, Twitter is just Twitter. Like, you know what I'm saying? Which like it's I ain't gonna lie. Like, stuff like that does make me like not even want to make this video. But it's like at the same time, like I'm getting asked about it. I want to talk about it. And it just is what it is. I just have to like grit and bear it. And whatever comments I get, there's gonna be those of you who actually listen and are reasonable and like we can have a conversation. There's gonna be people who just like have whatever mindset that they have. They're just gonna, you know, be ignorantly in that stance and stand there firmly. And then just they have some negative to say. They have some negative to say. It is what it is. Regardless. I agree with you. Like, it doesn't feel very much like a real 4v4 game. It doesn't feel very much like a tag game. But if it is, or if it becomes that, and even regardless of that, either way, 20 characters is very small. Even if this was a 1v1 game, they would be like, okay, like, I guess that's okay. 2v2, you'd be like, 3v3, you'd be like, wow, that's really small. 4v4, it's like, dude, that's just not enough. Viewers and spectators, casual players, and honestly, even more hardcore players who aren't so casual are going to feel as though the game gets very stale and boring, especially to watch when you're seeing so many characters over and over and over again. That is a constant criticism that you see. And honestly, at every level of play, you know what I mean? When people are watching events and top 8 has 4 of the same character because this character's top tier, and again, that's something that's just going to be par for the course, right? Like, tiers are always going to exist. Powerful characters are going to always exist. That's not lost on me. You don't have to explain that to me, okay? I understand that. But the point remains is that people care about character variety, diversity, and it's already bad enough that people are going to gravitate towards certain characters, particularly at high levels of play or in events. But if you don't even give them the chance or the opportunity to be diverse because they just don't have that many options, you're just compounding it and making it that much worse. You know what I mean? And then it's not just, it goes beyond just the high level of play at that point as well, because even when you're just casually playing, it's like I'm just seeing some of the same characters over and over and over and over and over again because it's only 20 characters. And yes, there's going to be DLC, there'll be season passes, there'll be more characters added to this game for years to come if it's successful and continues to get support. But again, like, how long is that going to take? It's the same thing like 2XKO. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where this really comes down, because really the roster is the thing that these have in common, where it's like, yeah, they have plans of adding 4 or 5 characters a year, which honestly just isn't enough for a game like that, in my opinion. But it's like, bro, you got 100+ characters to choose from in League, or champions, I guess. You start off with like 12. So most people do not have their favorite champion in there. And it might take years for someone that they really like to get added. Me personally, one reason why I don't like 2XKO is because I don't have a team that I like in that game. Yasuo is the only character that I really like. And by really like, I mean kind of like. He's the coolest one in the game to me, but I don't love him. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like maybe War. Like, I don't have 2 characters in that game that I love or like I want to play. That is like the biggest hang up for me. Like, even my gripes aside with the gameplay, like if I had a character I was like, oh, that character is sick, I want to play them, that would keep me playing. And with Tokon so far through the first couple of betas, like I don't have a character that I like playing in that game either. So it's like, you have these issues people have with like the game itself, and then there's the lack of characters. You know what I'm saying? Like, one or the other got to draw me in. Like, either the game got to be sick and I got to just find a character that I guess I resonate with, or like I got to find a character that's like, this character is so cool, I'm going to play this game even though I don't think the game is really all that, but this character makes the game all that for me. You know what I'm saying? There's neither right now in either of these games. That's where I'm at with it. I know not everybody's going to agree, but some of y'all gonna feel where I'm coming from, right? That's just like, again, like the roster is not the end all be all, but it's a pretty big part. And hey, who knows? Maybe within that 20, for me personally, maybe I'll have one that stands out to me that I really, really like. But what about everybody else? Who knows? And if we just take a look, right, at like some of the replies in this tweet, 20 characters for a 4v4 game that's even really tagging, because you got to do work to get other 2 characters open. This game sounds dead on arrival. I'm not interested in playing a tag game with only 20 characters. I don't play 2XKO for this very reason. Case in point, now we know what they haven't shown anymore. There's barely any characters. This game's going to be the 2XKO killer. Well, 2XKO was supposed to, well, 2XKO might be the 2XKO killer. Only 20 characters in a 4v4 game. I remember when 30 years ago, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 launched with 54. 20 characters is fine, but in a 4v4 tag game, even Infinite released with more characters, dead on arrival. Yeah, maybe we should let this one cook until we hit 30. It should be 28 at least. That sucks. I knew it was going to be low because DBFZ also didn't launch with a lot of characters. And that's what I was saying before. DBFZ launched with 24 characters, and that game got criticized for having a small roster. And going into that, DBFZ ended up being about what I expected. If you look back on my channel, I have a video where I was trying to like temper people's expectations that were mostly like anime fans and Dragon Ball fans and weren't as tuned in with the FGC, where I was like, hey, don't expect a gigantic roster like a Tenkaichi game going into this. It's going to probably be 25 to 30 characters. And a lot of people were telling me that I was crazy, I was out of my mind, blah, 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 like there's no way, da, 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 because they didn't really understand. and then it launched with 24, which is actually one less than I expected. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like that game got criticized for that. People thought that I was insane for thinking that the game would launch with only 25 characters. But yeah, 20 is too low, and you see it. Like, there's a few people out there that's like, oh, it's not too bad, whatever. But like, most people are in agreement that like, hey man, that's just not enough. So then I made a tweet saying that this is crazy. I was just talking about this on stream because literally right before this, or like, yeah, right before this came out, I was on stream talking about the 2xKO stuff. Shout out Yozo Zuya for linking me the article, and then talking about Marvel Tokon, kind of like I am now, where I was like, I was dead ass on stream saying that like it needs to be 30, like bare minimum, it needs to be 28 at launch, or people are gonna be upset. I'm gonna be upset. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be not upset. I'll be disappointed. And I'm disappointed. Like 20 is, I was like, bro, it's got to be 28, 30 at least. 4v4? Like, come on. Like, and honestly, I would have settled for like 24, 25 because I was like, well, DBFZ, because that's what I do with everything anyway. I mean, y'all see it, right? I always tie everything back to DBFZ. It is what it is, right? But if it had been like 24, 25, and like, yeah, you're like, oh, it's only 4 or 5. Like, what's it? It makes a big difference, bro. It really does. You know what I'm saying? 20 is abysmal. I'm a straight up. Because like I didn't get this off my chest. I didn't speak my piece with 2xKO and all the red flags that I had and the hangups I had with the roster and the gameplay and the business practices with the monetization and everything like that. Like I kind of like kept it to myself. But I'm speaking my piece now, bro. The launch roster of 2xKO is absolutely fucking inexcusable. Inexcusable. 20 characters from Marvel Tokon is inexcusable. It is not enough. You're not gonna satisfy people with that. Myself included. If you're promoting this as a 4v4 tag game with 20 characters, you're already fucking up. And I say that, you know, most people seem like they were agreeing with me. You see Dotto's like, I really need like 40 before I'm even gonna think it's okay. 20 is a tough sell. 20 characters for a 4v4 is insane. You know, a couple people saying, no, 20 is fine. Someone asking, what is this game doing right? And like I said before, there are people like this who are saying, you know, it's not really a 4v4 game, which like, I kind of feel you, because it doesn't really feel that way right now, but we still don't really have our hands on the game like that. So maybe there's more to it than we know, or maybe they change it. Either way, that's how they're marketing it. You know what I'm saying? So the optics of it are bad. I'm gonna keep it a stack. My honest opinion of people saying things like this, where it's like, oh, 20's fine, there's gonna be DLC characters. That's crazy cope. That's crazy cope. When are y'all gonna learn that the depth of the characters is greater than the depth of the roster? The characters have no depth though. That's one of the biggest concerns and criticisms of the game, is that there's no depth. Maximilian was on stream the other day saying that it's not even a real fighting game. It's more like a 2D arena fighter. You know what I mean? More than like an actual like serious like tag fighter. It feels like a 2D arena fighter because it's lacking in depth and creativity. The roster will grow. This is a negative for nothing. But see, this is what I mean. I'm not even, I don't want to be negative. Like, I'm not trying to be like, this isn't even me hating. I just said, bro, all I said was, this is underwhelming. You know what I'm saying? People are going to be upset about this and lose interest. And they clearly are. Like, what I said is right. This isn't me just being negative for no reason. I want better for all of us. We deserve better. We deserve more. I don't think this is me being crazy or entitled. And like, hey, and maybe Dotto is on to something, right? Hey, maybe it's 20 bangers. Maybe it's 20 banger ass characters, which already isn't true, because it's already some characters that was not bangers out of the 6 that we already know. But regardless, maybe by the time the game actually drops, it's some heat. Maybe this week in that state of play, we gonna see some fire. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the game is gonna be elite when it drops, but they might got some gas playing for the state of play. And for all of our sakes, for Arc System Works' sake, for Marvel's sake, for the FGC's sake, I sure as fuck hope so. I hope so. But if you want my honest opinion, I don't think so. And I would love to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I'm so sick and tired of biting my tongue. I don't think I give a fuck no more, bro. It is what it is. I'm thinking about walking away from this shit anyway. I'm tired of these games coming out and they're underbaked, they're undercooked, they're overpriced. Niggas is coping. And it's just like we pretending like we like the shit when we don't. Hoping that one day shit get to the point where we actually fuck with it. And we just convince ourselves through Stockholm Syndrome that this shit tastes good, but we eating garbage. Like yeah. Let me call it, because is it that serious? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. I got a lot of pent up frustration because, like I said, I've been keeping a lot of shit to myself, and I'm just not one of those happy go lucky, like overly optimistic, positive people. I would love to be that. But I'm not. Like I genuinely, I would love to be that, but I'm not. I got a lot of red flags with Marvel Tokon. I don't think this game is going to be nearly as big as people are hoping and expecting it to be. I think it's going to follow similar footsteps as 2XKO, where it's like, red flag there, red flag there, red flag there. I don't know, man. This game doesn't look like it's going to be the one that niggas think it is, and then it's going to drop. And for that first month, it's going to be hype because it's the shiny new toy, and we all going to be like, oh, see, like we was worried about nothing. Like, nah, the game is sick. And then once the dust clears, you know what I'm saying, and everything settles down, and people start looking at the game for what it really is, as opposed to just through those, not rose-tinted glasses, but you know what I'm saying, like the, you know, the shiny new toy goggles, where it's just like everything is cool because it's new. When everything settles down, and people are going to be like, huh, I don't really fuck with that. I don't fuck with this. That's weird. It's not enough of this. They need more of that. And then you're gonna be like, damn, this shit really not all it was cracked up to be. Just like 2XKO. I feel like I've been going through the same shit with like all my favorite like things, like because anime games go through the same shit, where it's like, I dealt with that a lot with Sparking Zero, man, where like I was super hyped and excited for that game, and it came out, and at first I'm like, yo, this is dope. And then I, you know, again, like after the first few days of the week, a week or two or whatever, I'm like, okay, like I had a bunch of gripes with the game, and niggas wasn't trying to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Like I got a lot of toxic positivity and backlash in return. People tell me that I didn't know what I was talking about. I'm just trash at the game. This, snap, blase, blah. And look what happened to that game, bro. Became a laughing stock. You know what I'm saying? And the game got better with some time, but it was too little too late. I'm tired of that happening, bro. I'm tired of seeing games that have all this potential in the world. Fighting games and anime games are literally the potential, man. I mean, like, oh, if they just do this and do that and do that, the game would be peak, bro. It'd be so fucking peak. And guess what? It never reaches the fucking peak. Ever. I'm tired of it. So I'm gonna just start calling it for how it is. I'm gonna start calling. If it looked like a duck and it walked like a duck and it quacked like a duck, guess what? It's a fucking duck. You feel me? So I hope that this state of play is a fucking banger. I hope it's a fucking banger. Because if not, you know what I mean? Please make me look stupid. Please make me look stupid at this state of play. I'm done.